with you. We are translating Republican speak into English using the very very easily accessible speech of Donald Trump on Saturday in Iowa at an event put on by Joni Ernst. It was the second annual, I don't know, pig castrating contest or whatever it was. And Donald Trump spoke there. And the entire, by the way, the entire Republican, what would you call it, universe in Iowa has now come out for Donald Trump. In fact, they were all on the stage with him, the governor, the state representatives, or the U.S. members of Congress, the senators. They've all come out for Donald Trump. And looks like, you know, Reagan carried Iowa. I think Bush carried Iowa, but typically Iowa goes for Democratic presidents. It looks right now like Donald Trump is going to carry Iowa because of the Republican institutional support. And I'm telling you right now, right here, that because Trump is doing Republican speak now instead of Trump speak, which he was doing 2 weeks ago, because he's reading off the prompter and he's reading the words of these weasel words that these guys have been using to fool average Americans for the better part of 40 years. He's not saying anything that Ronald Reagan didn't say. In some cases, using the exact same phrases that Reagan used, that Bush the elder used, that Bush Jr. used, that all the candidates in between used, you know, Bob Dole, John McCain, Mitt Romney, all of them use this language. And Trump is now starting to use this language, which tells me that Iowa is going to start getting replicated all over the country as Republicans realize, hey, the Supreme Court's at stake, and Donald Trump is now starting to talk like an actual Republican. In other words, lying to the American people in a way that they don't realize they're being lied to. Here's another example. He wants to do away with the estate tax. The estate tax it only affects estates where, you know, if a married couple dies and their assets are over $10 million, then the tax kicks in on the amount over $10 million, and it's a progressive tax, so it starts out small and gets larger as the estate gets larger. But it's still, frankly, I don't remember what the top tax rate is, but it's still not huge. But for somebody like the Walton family, the richest family in America, you know, the Walton family, who funded to the tune of millions of dollars secretly for years an effort to change the phrase estate tax into death tax successfully. For families like the Koch brothers, who've gone from back 8-10 years ago being worth $8 or $10 billion, now being worth $80 to $100 billion. For groups like them, the estate tax is a BFD. They want to pass this money down into their children so that their children, grandchildren, and whatnot, they want to create a dynasty. They want to have political power forever. They want to be the landed gentry. They want to be like the wealthy people who control Europe. And the way to do that is to do away with the estate tax. And so here's Donald Trump, again, using family farms. No family farm has been lost to the estate tax in decades. Family farms aren't big enough to qualify for the estate tax. And giant farms are not owned by families. They're owned by corporations. So there is no estate tax. And in fact, even a family farm that's large enough to qualify for the estate tax, an easy way to avoid the estate tax is simply to incorporate it and then just pass the corporation to your heirs. But in any case, here's Donald Trump using family farms as the excuse to do away with the estate tax. Clip number 6.
Adding to the pain, she will tax family farms again at death by as much as 45%. And you've already paid your tax, right? You've paid your tax. Now you're going to pay it again. And your children and family, it's a very tough situation. You know that.
No, actually, you don't pay it again because you're dead. The people who are getting your stuff are paying the tax because they didn't work for it. Who doesn't understand this? I mean, Teddy Roosevelt put this into place, the Republican Teddy Roosevelt, in order to prevent things like the Koch and Walmart dynasties from emerging in the United States. In both cases, they inherited all their money from Daddy. You know, the way that Ayn Rand celebrates in Atlas Shrugged, where Dagby and her brother inherited the railroad from Daddy, who died, and thus begins the story. They made their money the old-fashioned way. They inherited it. Clip number 7, the same thing. Not only are we going to cut the business tax, we're going to end the estate tax. Again, these are cuts that will help giant transnational corporations and big polluting industries like Koch Industries and Walmart and whatnot. And Donald Trump is getting these poor Republican farmers to think that they're actually going to get some benefit from this. Here he is.
Her anti-energy agenda will drive up the cost of energy, another attack on agriculture. It's a big attack on what you're doing because you need the energy. We're going to end this war on the American farmer. You are going to like Donald Trump so much, I'm telling you. You're going to like Donald Trump. We get it. We all get it. We understand what's going on. That includes our plan to lower the tax rate on family farms down to 15% and to stop double taxation on the family farms at death, helping to ensure that the family farm tradition in Iowa continues to thrive and flourish with your children and your grandchildren, and you'll be looking down and you'll be happy. We hope you're looking down anyway. We hope you're looking down.
Another little ad lib there at the end, but you know, same thing, same spiel, same sales pitch, and it's completely disingenuous. Converting Republican speak to plain English. Here it is on trade. He has stopped, number one, he has stopped saying we're going to do away with these trade deals. We're going to pull out of these trade deals, which is, by the way, what I think we should do, and simply create an American trade policy like we had before Reagan. He's no longer saying that. He started out saying that. He's no longer saying that. Now he's saying we're going to renegotiate our trade deals. In other words, this is Republican speak. You don't like NAFTA? Oh, well, we'll renegotiate it. Don't worry. Everything's going to be fine. You don't like the TPP? We'll renegotiate it, and then we'll present it. You know, it's all going to be good. So he's changed his position. Here he is, clip number 8. Oh, and hang on just a second. Before we play that, I'm sorry. At the very end of this, Robert Schuller used to have the Crystal Cathedral in California. He died a couple of years ago. I used to love watching Robert Schuller on Sunday mornings. He was a compassionate Christian. And, you know, he did these Sunday morning services on TV for the great unchurched. I loved him because it was always uplifting. He was the heir to Norman Vincent Peale. Schuller is big in the Midwest. Big in the Midwest. And the evangelicals and even the non-evangelical Christians all across the Midwest loved Robert Schuller. So, and this, by the way, sets up the next clip after this one. So just to tell you, there's a shout out to Robert Schuller at the end of this, which segues right into the next clip after this. But, you know, so listen, here it is.
We're going to make a very powerful and great trade deal. We're going to have fantastic trade deals. Right now we have horrible trade deals. We have the worst trade deals. Our country loses, if you look at our trade deficit with the world, $800 billion a year. Can you imagine this? Who makes these deals? Who makes them? To those going through hardship, let me quote somebody that I got to know very well, Reverend Robert Schuller. Tough times don't last. Tough people do. I think it's a great quote. I think it's a great quote.
Yeah, it's a great quote. It really is a great quote. And Robert Schuller was a good guy. And did you hear what Donald Trump just said? He just said, we're not going to withdraw from the trade deals. We're not going to fundamentally change our trade policy. We're not going to go back pre-Reaganomics. We're going to continue with this policy. We're just going to renegotiate these things. And then he shouted out to Robert Schuller fans, which then leads to ending the Johnson Amendment. Now, in 1954, nonprofit organizations were engaging heavily in political activity. And one of the principal political activities they were engaged in, and this was just all nonprofits, right? One of the principal ones was like the John Birch Society calling Lyndon Johnson a communist, Fred Koch's John Birch Society. And so LBJ got inserted into a federal budget, a paragraph amendment to that budget that said that nonprofit organizations may not engage in politics. If you want to engage in politics, we're not going to subsidize you by allowing you to no longer pay taxes. And it affected the churches that are 501c3s, and and schools. I mean, schools typically aren't political anyway. Most charities that I know of don't want to engage in politics. We used to run a community for abused kids. We never engaged in politics, and so no problem. But there's a bunch of pastors around the country that want to get hyper political. And so here is Donald Trump saying, we are going to end that amendment so you preachers, you can become political advocates and still maintain your nonprofit status All those liberals are going to have to pay for your infrastructure, your police, your fire, the roads to your facilities, your property taxes, the income tax that you would have had to pay on the sale in your mega churches of all your DVDs and courses and books and materials. You're paying no taxes on that at all right now, and unless you engage in politics. And we're going to do away with that. So this is ending the separation of church and state. It basically is what Donald Trump is calling for here. Here it is.
We will get rid of the Johnson Amendment, which is a disaster. Happened in 1954 by Lyndon Johnson, which really is a horrible thing. It denies your pastors their right to free speech. And it's had a huge negative impact on religion, a huge negative. We will let your pastors, your ministers, your rabbis, your priests, we will let them speak again without losing tax deductibility. We will let them speak.
People love it. Oh, yeah, we want our churches run by the Republican Party. Yeah. I mean, you get what's going on here. We're translating Republican speak into plain English. He says he's going to promote, the next one is, the big dream of the libertarians and many Republicans is ending public education. Libertarian Party platform talks about how there should be no public schools, literally no public schools, K through 12, do away with it. Billionaires will provide us with schools, charter schools, for-profit charter schools, no problem. And also, the Libertarian Party platform calls for a complete end of all federal aid to higher education. No more free or even discounted community colleges or public universities. None of that. Forget it. Privatize the whole damn thing. And here is Donald Trump saying that using this magic phrase that the Republicans love to use called school choice.
We are also going to end the discrimination that traps parents and kids in failing government schools. Our schools are a disaster. The Republican Party and me is a party of school choice. You will see a big difference. Big difference.
Yeah, you'll see a big difference when your school shuts down. And finally, I don't know if you've noticed it, but Trump has started using a magic word when he talks about his immigration policy. And this is a major change. Right now, President Obama deports people who are in this country without documentation who have committed crimes. Fastest way to get deported. Commit a crime, boom, you're out. So we deport criminal immigrants right now. Now, Donald Trump used to say he was going to deport all immigrants who were here without documentation. And when he says, and now he's saying he's going to deport only criminal immigrants. And a lot of the people listening in that audience think that being here without documentation is a crime. It's actually not a crime under the criminal code. And so it's, it's more of like an administrative thing. So it's a civil thing. It's not a put you in jail crime. Okay, this is civil action, not a crime. So he has inserted the word criminal. So in other words, you've got to rob a bank or you've got to shoot somebody before you get deported. And nobody is noticing this. This is a major change in Donald Trump's immigration policies. And again, these people, because this is how the Republicans talk, they think that he's still back on his, you're going to get rid of all these immigrants. Here he is.
On day one, I'm going to begin swiftly removing criminal, illegal immigrants from this country.
Yeah. So you get the sense here? You figuring out what's going on? I mean, this is pretty straightforward stuff. There's no magic about it. Republicans have been doing this since Reagan, and they have successfully, over and over and over again, in Senate races, in House races, all over the place, they have successfully fooled Americans. I mean, it's tempting to call Republican voters suckers or chumps or something, but this is very carefully language.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann. Visit ThomHartmann.com for audio and video archives.
It's not so much that they're suckers or chumps. It's just, they're being lied to in a very sophisticated way.